The lost warrior tech that outsmarted GPS, the navigation secrets soldiers swore by. If you've ever trusted your phone to guide you through a new city, wait till you hear how soldiers in World War II found their way through pitch-black forests, blown-apart landscapes, and oceans wider than fear itself. This wasn't app navigation. This was warrior instinct fused with forgotten techniques so sharp they could embarrass modern GPS. And the greatest twist? Most of these methods still beat digital tools when the world goes dark. This is the legacy of survival, so let's dive straight into the real stuff. The tech, the tricks, and the soldier-tested wisdom that kept entire units alive when compasses broke, radios cut out, and every direction seemed like a trap. Long before satellites blinked above Earth, soldiers perfected a kind of invisible map built into the world around them. Troops were trained to read landscapes the way modern people read screens. Hills became arrows, rivers became timelines, wind patterns became guides. They learned that terrain doesn't lie, even when the enemy does. In many units, the first rule was simple. Trust the ground under your boots more than anything in your pack. Maps could burn, batteries didn't exist, but the earth itself, always there, always telling a story. One of the most underrated navigation tools of World War II was actually the shadows. Soldiers used the angle of sunlight not just to tell time, but to plot direction. A stick in the ground became a battlefield compass. The sun's path, rising in the east and setting in the west, became a reliable ally when everything else failed. What made it incredible was its simplicity. You could be in hostile territory with nothing but a broken rifle and a handful of courage, and still you could find your way as long as the sky wasn't covered. Many elite units mastered this technique so deeply it became instinctive. Modern survival experts still rely on the shadow method when tech shuts down. It's near foolproof. Soldiers revived knowledge usually reserved for sailors and nomads reading the sky. Stars weren't just pretty lights, they were lifelines. The North Star was the most loyal companion. It stays fixed above the northern hemisphere, giving direction any night it's visible. Troops paired it with constellations like the Big Dipper to calibrate their night marches, moving silently while the enemy slept. What makes this method so powerful is that it works everywhere, doesn't require gear, and can't be jammed, hacked, or intercepted. Soldiers trusted it because it never betrayed them. In open areas, especially deserts or long plains, the wind became a natural guide. Troops learned to feel the direction of steady winds and combine it with terrain memory. If the wind on your left cheek matched the wind direction earlier that day, you knew you were staying on track. It sounds small, but in battles where landmarks were destroyed by artillery or smoke choked the horizon, wind was sometimes the only constant. Expert soldiers could even tell where they were on the coast by the saltiness in the breeze. That's how sharp their senses were trained to become. During World War II, soldiers, they became human sonar systems. Without the aid of advanced technology, their ears honestly turned into weapons. They listened for echoes bouncing off cliffs, the direction of a river's flow, and the subtle hum of distant vehicles carrying through valleys. Sound, you see, travels in predictable ways, and trained soldiers could decipher its direction with chilling accuracy. A river's roar, for instance, grows louder upstream than it does downstream. The echo of footsteps, it changes when you turn away from a ridge. Even the silence in a forest can, in fact, tell you if you're approaching open land. This wasn't just guesswork. This was battlefield physics, transformed into survival instinct. Nature, if you know what to look for, reveals direction. Soldiers paid close attention to tree growth, moss on trunks, and the way vegetation leaned. Moss, for example, favours the shade and is often thicker on the north-facing side of trees in many regions. Troops would combine this observation with sunlight to double-check their bearings. Never relying on just one clue, that was standard practice. The environment was like, well, a giant puzzle, and when you learned how to read it, it guided you almost like a wise mentor. One of the smartest navigation secrets from World War II was honestly following water systems. Rivers flow from high ground to low ground, and more often than not lead towards settlements, crossings or coastlines. Soldiers used water as both a directional tool and a survival necessity. Animals, too, follow predictable paths. Fresh tracks, flight patterns, and even the noise of insects could reveal where water or open land might be found. These signs acted as the breadcrumbs of the natural world, allowing soldiers to orient themselves, even in completely unknown terrain. You know, human beings unconsciously create trails. Soldiers were trained to analyze old footpaths, how deep they were, how fresh they looked, and whether they curved toward shelter or supply zones. Even abandoned tracks had a story, really. A path leading uphill might signal an observation post, while one splitting into narrower branches often indicated civilian routes. This kind of reading allowed troops to guess where they were and where others had travelled, turning geography into intelligence. This one surprises people, but it was real. Smell carried across war zones, and trained fighters used it. The scent of the sea, the metallic smell of cities, the earthy scent of dense forest, even smoke direction from distant burning structures. When visibility dropped and sound became unreliable, smell could still orient a lost unit. It wasn't glamorous, but it was life-saving. The greatest lost tech wasn't a tool at all. It was mental mapping. Soldiers built a three-dimensional map of their surroundings inside their minds. They tracked every turn, every hill, every stream, even when sprinting for their lives. This discipline is more accurate than GPS in some survival scenarios. Because, you know, GPS gives direction. The mind builds understanding. And here's the kicker. Mental mapping is trainable. Anyone can build it with practice. Soldiers simply took it to a master level. Because technology fails, batteries die, signals drop, GPS can be jammed, scrambled, even manipulated. But the sun won't turn off. The stars won't mislead you. Rivers don't lie. The ground doesn't glitch. These ancient methods helped soldiers cross continents, escape capture, and find allies. They turned survival into a science. And today they remain the ultimate backup plan every survivalist, adventurer, and everyday person should know. If you love learning forgotten warrior skills like these, then you're exactly where you need to be. Hit that subscribe button, share this video with someone who loves history or survival wisdom, and help grow this legacy of survival community.